Good morning, guys and ladies. Um, so today I want to bring you a video about guns, and the topic is how to greet your opponents with a nickel bag of goodies. A nickel bag of goodies. Where did I get that from? You guys seem to like my 5 rules of thumb video. So I converted the 5 rules of thumb to a nickel bag of goodies. And where does Greek come from? Well, I've been studying the Greco War. Um, 1941, 1942, lately. And apparently, what the Greeks did was they put their artillery up front. They would attack with their artillery, but unbeknown to the Americans, unbeknown to the Italians, the Greeks had already infiltrated their lines and were way behind the infantry. The Greek infantry was well behind the Italian infantry. When the guns started blaring and there was a tactical retreat, they would find Greek soldiers in the rear, and the retreat continued all the way past back to Albania, and they got near Tirana. Then the weather turned for the worse, and both sides suffered heavy casualties due to frostbite and other weather-related ailments. Anywho, with no further ado, we'll move on, but not before I do one little reaction video, a reaction snippet rather, and my children, Yanni and Michael, who uh, are more, in fact, my creative producers. They told me never to do reaction videos, but I just could not resist this one. Basically, what we got here is Dan. He got, you know, he started promoting the channel, and listen to what Dan says. Now let's go full screen here. Let's see if we can go full screen. Yeah. Oh, he's a little bit on the off center, but it don't matter. Let's play it again, Sam. Here.
At the court of the great king. This is upcoming and it is scheduled for the 11th. That is yesterday at 9 p.m. Check it out, Hissy Cat. Tikani's George Hiotis ASL and everything ASL. Tips and tactics, 5 ways to use machine guns to maximum potential. Plus, the great stew cats. Stukas. He calls them Stukats. Air support, questions and answers. These are tips. George's a funny guy. Funny guy. Also, advanced squad leader SK. So that is the what do you call it? Starter kit. Analysis of scenario 1488 at Azon. All this at George Otis's channel. If I still.
Parakalo, Dan. And let's go back to our regularly scheduled program, which is which is guns. How to use them more effectively. Yeah. So I got 5 goodies for you, and I was about to tell you about the story about a Greek fellow by the name of George Mereklis and Dino Vino, and a German fellow by the name of Stu Katz. They were all sitting in Thessaloniki pre-war, about 1938, enjoying some great coffee and dessert, I guess near the port front in Thessaloniki. Very nice place. You got to visit it one day. It's in northern Greece, not southern Greece, where I'm from. Southeast is where I'm from, which may explain why I have some West Asian blood in me. Anywho, so what was happening is they were enjoying breakfast there and coffee and dessert. And, geez, that's my alarm. There you go. Anywho, they said, until we meet again, and parted ways. Lo and behold, World War II starts. George ends up on the Albanian front, as well. And towards the end of that great battle, along comes, they both come face to face on the front line, and along comes a Stuka, and instead of strafing them both, it just passes by, and they see the pilot wave. And they said, hey, that's Stukats. Anyway, long story short. Anyway, what you see here is what I assembled together are the geomorphic maps. And they originate from, well, number three. There's the first game that came out was Squad Leader, and it had four maps, and this is board number three, which we call the Village board, and it evolved into Advanced Squad Leader with a little minor changes. So there, between the first edition of the maps that were issued up until here, there were some minor changes and some losses were lost. The reason why I know that is because I read some articles on Hill 621.5. That's also a scenario in Advanced Squad Leader that was adapted over to ASL by Jim Stoller. And it's a very interesting scenario. Now, for those that don't like geomorphic maps because they don't represent reality versus the newly hassle maps, I think that these maps kind of model the terrain, not perfectly, but enough to give you a sense of how tactics can work. So this is the one of the maps from the original game, Squad Leader, and this is board 5, which came with Cross of Iron. And this is the really the game changer for me that introduced more complicated rules or more intricate rules. Complex is not a good word. I don't like it. I like intricate and more detailed oriented rules for armor. So they made distinctions between upper and lower hulls. Um, However, in the ASL version of the game, we have a more refined version of the rules. All right, so this is COI, and board 6 came with Crescendo of Doom. And with Crescendo of Doom, you ended up having orchards and more emphasis on grain. Basically, because you're dealing with areas of the more or less the Allied miners, early war on the Western Front, France. Um, and I know there are a couple of scenarios with respect to Crete and Greece. So, interesting. And also, orchards can double as olive orchards, which is um, a fantastic piece of terrain, especially given the hard wood. Now, what does terrain have to do with anything? Okay. All right. So the terrain, now we're getting into the crux of things. Terrain, um, and I'm using Italian and Greek guns because I'm sick and tired of doing Russian and German all the time. So terrain has a big factor to do with everything because, as we all know, guns uh, set up hip. So unless they fire, or unless you search or go into their hex, they do not reveal themselves. And you may want to keep concealment to the point where your opponent, by some miracle, like let's say they're here. I know it costs 2 to get in, 4 to get out. Boom, and then whoops, look who's there. And still he is concealed unless he rolls a 5 or a 6, him being in concealment terrain. Um, and at setup, he remains hid unless he is in non-concealment terrain, in which case you have to reveal him concealed. And he will lose concealment only after he fires a 5 or a 6, interestingly enough. And I guess this rule probably represents the low profile, low visibility of of certain guns. Yeah. Anywho, so now he's in grain, and uh, his 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 ability to remain hip and concealed uh, greatly depends on the terrain type. Now, the other factor that uh, uh, the terrain plays into is, suppose he's here, he's now in woods as opposed to grain, and accompanying infantry is there, and he's pointing in this direction. He's pointing in this direction. Okay, fine. And along comes your opponent. 1, 2. And now you decide to take a shot there. Now, I'm not too sure if there is loss there. We'll check it. Yeah, there is. I thought there was woods, but nope. And there's no hindrance. But he's facing in this direction, right? So now, let's switch guns, because this gun is not suitable for that example. It's not the best example I can give you. Okay, so let's put this guy back here. Let's switch guns, and this gun was, let's unhip him. Okay, this gun was facing in this direction. He has a rate of fire of 1. So subsequently, his rate of fire goes down to 0. Okay, for switching direction or covered arc. And if his actual rate of fire was 0 to begin with, he would be marked with intensifier after the first shot. So he switched covered arc by 1 hex spine. Typically, because he's not with a circle, that would be a +3. But since he's in woods, that doubles. That penalty doubles for switching covered arc. And let's see where all that information can be found. So ordnance to hit. So if you look at the fire-based hit determination DRM, fire outside covered arc per hex spine. So for turret weapons, for the first hex spine, it's 1 and 1 for every subsequent hex spine turn. For a slow turret, it's 2 for the first hex spine and +1 for every subsequent turn. And no turret, which is what this gun is +3 and +1 for each subsequent change of covered arc. And it's multiplied by 2 if the fire is in woods, building, or rubble. And lo and behold, he is in woods, so the penalty for changing covered arc, instead of it being +3, is now +6. So how would that figure into the to hit roll? So let's take a look at the modifiers. You have +6 for the change of covered arc after doubling it. And then you have probably a -1 because a first fire non-assault movement. And you have a -1 for first fire non-assault movement. First fire moving in the open is another -1. Okay. And probably range, you have a -1 for range. So the total negative modifiers are 3. And the total positive modifiers is 6. So that's a net up 3 to your dice roll, and ordinarily you need an 8 to hit at that range using the infantry target type. So you now need a 5. Whereas if you were in grain and you had to change your covered arc, you would only need a 3, and your net result would probably be a total of +1, +3 for the covered arc change, and -2 for FF and FFNAM and FFMO. MO. Yeah. So let's roll it in any case and see what's going on. 2 hit right there. 5. 5 + 3 is 8. Got him. I did not get rate because I changed covered arc. I got him. +6, -3. I got him just the same. And now, to roll on the IFT, it's since this guy's an 85, it'd be a 16 even shot. So let's take that shot and see what happens. That's an 8 on the 16, which is a 1 check. And I've managed to pin the guy. After all that is said and done, let's say this is a final fire or first fire. There you go. So terrain plays a key role. And my number 2, I briefly mentioned it, is hip and concealment. And you also have to take into consideration where you're going to put your gun to ensure that it's in place. To go over emplacement, you can find a quick definition in the index. You don't have to go very far. And the index is pretty handy. I would say three times out of 5, I'd look at the index just to get a reminder of what something is, and lo and behold, it's there. So, emplace gun, any gun which has not been hooked up to a vehicle and has not been moved from its setup X during the scenario, excluding if the setup on a paved road. Such a gun and its manning infantry are entitled to a +2 emplacement, TEM. Now, TEM is not cumulative in this game, so consider the fact that you're emplaced to be a good thing. Now, if you go into woods, if you put your gun in woods, and the other fellow has a mortar, your +2 is cumulative in that case with airburst. So you got to be mindful of that. Okay. Yeah. And same goes for stone buildings. You think you're going to get something out of it because you got a +3 TEM, but at the same token, you have to be mindful of the fact that you know buildings and woods impede your ability to use your gun because changing the covered art will be a bit prohibitive. All right, number 3 is the Neil Yulin attack, the Neil Yulin hack, and he made a video about that. And basically, what that is if I unhip uh, certain guns, and I don't think the Italians and the Greeks are a good example of this, but let's see what they got. Show info. No gun shield. Told A+1. And it's a QSU. No gun shield. Acquired not applicable. Hull down. Or HD. Notes HD. Let's see this one. Bofors. Let's see what they have. Oops. This one I don't even have an info counter on it. Well, to tell you exactly what the hack is that, and I can use a German gun for that example, I suppose. I have no choice. German or Russian? Yeah, German is a safer bet. Let's go to German. Let's go to guns. Let's go to artillery. And let's go to 105. What a sick gun. Look at it. All right, show info. So you have H6, and that's a special type of ammo. Now, basically, what the hack is you fire your special ammo at your target, and if you do not get lower than or equal to the depletion number, it's as if the shot didn't happen. Now, the worst thing that can occur is that either you break your gun or you discover that you don't have that special ammo. That's the worst thing that can happen. Now, once that occurs, it's as if the shot didn't happen. Therefore, you get to shoot again. You shoot again, and then you resolve that attack. And at that point, you may be able to intensify as well. So that's 3 attacks. And with one either materializing or realizing that, hey, you don't have that ammo anymore. So with a Neil-Yulin hack, I suppose what you're supposed to be doing is um, ascertaining that you do know the type of ammunition that your gun has and doesn't have. I think I've done another tutorial where I explained to you what the overscore and underscore mean. Overscore means that you have HE ammo only, so you'll be hard-pressed to destroy tanks. And there are certain guns, and AT guns are a notorious example of the British in particular, where instead of being overscored, you're underscored. And underscored means you only have AP ammunition, which means you can only attack on the 1 or 2 table. Yeah. Overscored is HE, underscored is AP only. And, excuse me, Chapter C has the chart where you see the AP equivalency. And I was wondering, here we have ATR mole, backblast DR, AP minefields. You should also have the AP equivalency somehow. Anyway, I tried to recreate this in Excel, and it was giving me, actually, it wasn't this exactly. It was the infantry fire table on the back of the concise rulebook, paperback rulebook, and was giving me accessibility issues. Anyway, all right. Number 3, the Neil-Yulin hack. Number 4 is knowing your rate of fire, and I already mentioned it. Okay, and here's a gun with no rate of fire. And again, if this gun fires after changing its covered arc, you have to mark it with an intensive fire marker, or in the defensive fire phase with this one. That's only if it changed its covered arc. If it didn't, you're good to go, and you probably have a second shot in intensive fire as well. If you do have a rate of fire that's higher than 1 or greater, if you change the covered arc, it is reduced by 1. Your rate is reduced by 1. Also, if you use the infantry target type, it's further reduced by 1. So in this case, this gun here, if you take a closer look at it, there you go. We have in parentheses after the gun size, we have in parentheses the 8, which means that I can fire in the infantry fire table using 8 firepower factors without having to roll on the to-hit table. But subsequently, my rate of fire is reduced by 1 to a 2. If I also change the covered arc and want to use the infantry fire table, then my rate is reduced to 1. So in this case, you might ask yourself, when do I use the infantry fire table and when do I use the to-hit table? And my rule of thumb there is basically this. Now if we zoom out, and let's put the gun here, and at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes or more, I would use the to-hit table and hope for a rate of more than 1 shot. The moment he comes in within range, use your 8 firepower factors, because you can't take a risk that you will not eliminate him before he comes up close and personal and jumps into close combat with you. Also, if he comes in point blank, you have to remember that the 8 firepower factors are doubled to 16. So he would have to flank you in order to get you. But once he goes into a combat with a crew, it's a 3-2 combat situation, which is, the fellow that has 3-2 has a more favorable chance of eliminating close combat than you have of eliminating him. Now, I've used close combat opportunities in scenarios where I had to eliminate or take the position of guns. And that is really the only way you can uh, safely or surely eliminate a gun is going up to them up close and personal one, and from a weak vantage point, I suppose, from their weakest vantage point, and eliminating them. So number four is be mindful of your rate of fire. And number five, I can demonstrate it to you this way. And let's say Xenos is up there, and we have this fellow here, like this. Okay? So what do we have there? We have an Italian infantry gun, 70 mil. Okay? And the Greeks are stacked in this two-level building, but you got one unit on the ground floor, one unit in the first floor, and another unit with an LMG and Lieutenant Xenos on the second level. What this guy has to do is he can either choose between area target type that would affect everybody, okay, or he can choose infantry target type and it would affect only one of the three um, levels. So let's do both examples and see how it works out. Okay, let's say he's using infantry target type against the second level, and you have to announce that before you take the shot. You can't just roll on the two-hit table and say, don't announce what you're doing to your opponent. That's a no-no. All right, so let's say infantry target type. Level 2, target Oscar 3. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away. So at a 0 to 6 range, your your base two hit is, let's take a look at the chart. There it is. So center it. Infantry target type 0 to 6, base 8, and +3 for the 10, right? Makes it a 5. 5 to hit. So let's roll on the 2 hit. Roll the 7. So now what I'm going to do is make an act, right click, boop. And usually what I like to do is this. I press the shift key, select the gun, right click, label. And you can use label A here. And if you're doing a board game, you have to go shifting for an acquisition marker with the same letter as this fellow, and then boom. Okay. We can intensify. So again, in this case, we have base 8, let's say intensifier there. Base 8 +3 for the 10, +2 for intensifier, that makes it 5, and -1 for -1 for your act. So let's go on it to hit. That's a hit, and the risk you take by doing intensifier is that the breakdown number goes down by 2. So in this case, if I had rolled a 9, this guy would have been mouthed, and if I rolled an 11, it would be outright eliminated. Now my act here now is a -2, but it will only, the attack will only affect Lieutenant Xenos and the 457. So now I got to roll on the I-15, and I rolled an 11. An 11 on the 12 is a miss. So overall, the shell hit. It went throughout the one window and went out through the other. It didn't affect them at all. Now let's do an example using the area target type. So let's put this on the side for now, and let's do the math on that one. So for area target type, it's a straight up 7 to hit. You don't add the 10. There's no hindrances. If the target was concealed, however, you'd have an additional +2. DRM. So 7 to hit. Let's try that out. And remember, now we got an area acquisition, which is big, but not yet. Let's roll on to hit. We need a 7 to hit. And we got a 5. We get the yak. Alright, now we roll on the IFT, which is normally would be 70, but that's 12 firepower factors. However, with area target type, we have the firepower to the 6 and add the 10 to our dice roll for the IFT. So IFT will be a 6 on the 6 table, plus 3 to my dice roll for the building temp. 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 on the 6 table is nada. This gun has no rate of fire. Yeah. But as the yak grows, so is the possibility of getting an important result against your opponent. On the other hand, though, these folks can fire. I believe they can fire a group and fire against the gun, and in this case, they probably get an up to result for being in place. And we got at least a 12 up 1 attack there. So if you fire back, 8 on the 12 is a 1 check. Poor Italians, they only have a morale of 7. So if we do a morale check and then add 1, hey, they passed. Not so bad. So basically, this is a 32-minute video with 5 goodies with respect to guns and how you can Greek your opponent. Now you know what the Greek tactic is. What are you guys looking at? Are you looking at this little speck here? Oh, what does it say here? What are you guys looking at this? Yeah. What does it say there? Lieutenant Colonel William Kilgore. I wonder how I got this. One day I'll show you how to make these things. They're little, what I call them, they're little ASL elf on the shelves. Christmas is around the corner. Yeah, quite a few months from now. And it's nice to make this for your buddies and all these babies here. I made a little white speck on it because I used sticky tack to put it up, but nothing that can't be repaired. If you're a modeler, you like to repair things. Yeah. Anyway, back to the video. I still got good volume. That's great. Back to the video. So basically, just to recap, always good to write things down. This way you remember them, okay? When you're playing with guns, don't play with fire, don't run with scissors in your hands, but remember, terrain, hip and concealment, the Neil Eulenhack, check out his video, and rate of fire, and the cumulative factors that can reduce your rate of fire. And never forget target type. Now, when I was in the Army, there was a protocol as to how to give orders as to where to fire and how to fire. And basically, I don't remember the order that we had to give the attack, but we had to identify the target, whether it was infantry, a building, a tank, its direction, the ammo type that we should use, and at what point they should attack. Should they attack at will, at the first opportunity, immediately, and whatnot. And I didn't have enough practice doing those protocols, but I remember it's more or less that what you see in Squad Leader. So in a way, the game mimics real life, and in a way it doesn't. Sip of coffee. 6:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. I kind of pre-record things so you can have a video Saturday morning. Except when I do something, during the week that I want to publish right away. So those were the five goodies. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope it will improve your game. And if you have any questions, any comments, do not forget to comment below. I've had very good feedback so far from a lot of folks, and I also learned that one of my favorite YouTubers is not too far away from me, in the uh, town of Renfrew. And Renfrew is a beautiful town. Highly recommend going there. Um, and in the town, I think you can get a decent meal at quite a few good restaurants. hmm And it's not too far away from Ottawa. And I've been there on my way to Georgian Bay and Parry Sound to see a couple of family friends. And one last thing, um, I'll bring you the page right off the bat. So Jim das Selvas Brazil, he also dwells in Advanced Wilder quite a bit. And you can see that he has started a segment on seaborne assault mechanics 9 part 1, and it's a quite a detailed video, well put together. Yes, he does talk with an accent. I think it's on
The
purpose, but
Pacific Theater of Operations, PTO, brought to the Advanced Squad Leader system through the Rising Sun module. This
and
module brings some
there seems to
peculiarities.
be there seems to be also in Spanish. Um, Forget what you call these things. Subtitles. So Spanish subtitles, English with a foreign accent, but his slides are pretty good, and it's clear that he is the owner of the Rising Sun, and he's not just looking in Chapter G. Looking at the rules is one thing. Playing the game, getting practice is a complete different game, and you cannot let just your apprehensions about quality have you refrain from playing the game, because then without practice there's no perfection. So keep those thoughts in mind, guys and ladies, and have yourself a great week ahead. Until next time, see you later.